Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us wherever you are. If you're joining us on the airwaves here in Santa Barbara, California, we welcome you at TVSB, and we're so glad you're with us. And then many of you are joining us from all over the world at goodlifetelevision.org, at our YouTube page, our podcast, Good Life Conversations. There's a lot of places to find us, and you can watch the full form interviews, and you can also see these great power clips where we break up some of these moments, and so you can kind of get a taste and a feel of some of these tremendous guests. Good Life is here to dwell on and to tell the stories of so much of the good stuff that is happening, and the great life stories, great journeys, great entrepreneurs, creators, overcomers. We've had young people, we've had public servants, all walks of life. So it's really been fun. We're closing in on here on our 200th episode interview. It's really been a great journey, and so we're so glad you're with us for it. I'm really excited today to have a friend here in Santa Barbara join me. John Johnson is with me. Welcome.
Thank you.
So John has had a great career as a businessman. John, he's a philanthropist. He received his HBA at Western University, which is kind of the Canada's the Canada version of a Harvard Business School. Played varsity football there, and then ended up doing marketing and brand management. Worked at Unilever, Levi Strauss. Developed a really interesting thing we're going to talk about called the 60-minute strategic plan for CEOs. And he's written a book that we're also going to talk about. You won't believe me when I tell you this, but he's 90. I couldn't believe when he told me at lunch the other day, but he's had an amazing journey. So I love talking to men and women who have had a journey that have so much to look back on, and so much learning, so many experiences, life experiences. But take us back to kind of where you were raised and kind of what your upbringing was like.
I was raised on a small farm just north of Niagara Falls in Canada. All my relatives were farmers. My dad was blue collar. None of them went to high school, never got that far. So it was odd that I'd want to go on, although I fell in with some buddies who were basketball, football, and rowing. My hometown was the Henley of Canada. So I rowed for several years. And for some reason, they all assumed they were going to university. Only 5% of the population in my day went on past high school. So I thought, well, I'll just follow them, whatever that means. And so it took quite a while to get through school because I quit high school twice, went to work, and then decided I'm better off in school. And then went to university, and I got offered a scholarship to play football. Then my life got altered immediately. I was in the circle, the exercise circle, and the guy next to me, who I didn't know, said, "What are you enrolled in?" I said, "I'm in geology." He said, "Really? I'm in geology. I'm a junior. Tell me, do you like sleeping on the ground?" I said, "No, I don't like sleeping on the ground." He said, "Well, Northern Ontario is all rocks. You better change your mind." So I thought, okay. So without a clue, he said, "I hear they have a good business school here. Why don't you try that?" So in my sweats, I went up and changed my major to business school.
Wow. Anyway,
After that, I had malnutrition all 4 years in school. I had no money, and but I got through it. It was a rough grind, frankly. And then went to work for Unilever as a brand manager for 8 years, and then got an offer to come down and manage Levi Strauss's advertising at their advertising agency in San Francisco. Did that for 20 years, and then spent the next 30 years working with entrepreneurs, consulting with entrepreneurs, and that's where I picked up. Entrepreneur to me is the top of the food chain. They are the heart and soul of the United States of America. Mm-hmm. I love them. I don't have the guts to be an entrepreneur, but I consulted with them. So anyway, that brings me here.
Yeah, and so you had like groups with CEOs. Talk about that process. What was the vision there?
Yeah, I joined an outfit called Vistage, or then the Executive Committee.
Yep.
And they would group CEOs together, groups of 8 to 10, And I had three groups of them, about 30 CEOs, and I'd spend an hour or 2 hours with each CEO a month and then bring them together for 1 day for each group, 3 days a month, to talk about the issues we'd raised in the one-on-one. And it was just superb. They had peers. Everybody was a peer, and they couldn't have any competing businesses, so you couldn't be in any competition. So it was the most amazing education I've ever received. I learned nothing, I think, in large corporations. Entrepreneurs are it's all about business. They are the best. So.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating.
And how did so you developed this thing called the 60-minute strategic plan.
Right.
Why did you do that, and kind of talk about what it was?
Yeah, I concluded after 28 years in corporate life that small businesses needed all the services, but they had no money or personnel. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they didn't do was strategic planning. So I invented a thing called the 60-minute strategic plan, and it finally evolved into I did 700 workshops and put about 10,000 entrepreneurs around the world through the 60-minute strategic plan. I got a 90 to 95% rating for usefulness.
Wow.
Which to me was the lollipop, so that was good.
Wow. And so talk us through kind of how did it work?
Well, matter of fact.
Perfect.
Yeah. This was the template. So I would start in the upper right-hand corner and work my way through. What is your issue?
Yeah.
What are the obstacles to the issue? What are your values? What are the obstacles standing in your way? And how are you going to attack each of those obstacles? So they would wind up at the end of a 3-hour workshop with a completed plan on the subject of their choosing. And it could be anything from, I got to get rid of my brother-in-law who's in the business, to one couple said, I don't know whether to send my son to a public or a private school. They figured this out.
Really?
Yes, and that's an amazing issue. Well, with 10,000 people, there were almost 10,000 issues. So anyway,
right.
That was it.
Wow.
It's free, available to anybody that wants it. I'm not selling anything, so I just, anyway.
That's fascinating. Yeah, the entrepreneurial life, obstacles are constant.
Yes.
And having a mechanism, and for a CEO as well. I mean, it doesn't get to the CEO unless nobody else can solve it, right?
Exactly.
So the CEO's dealing with the tough ones.
Yep.
And having a mechanism or a template for how to do that is powerful. Your latest thing, which I want to talk about, but actually before we talk about that, but you can get the book if you have. Do you have the book?
Yep.
I gave mine away already, John. So
good.
I need another one. So we're going to talk about this in a second. Love is a management practice, but before we do that, I want to go back to your faith journey. You told me over lunch you came forward at a Billy Graham crusade in like 1956, 55, somewhere in there. Talk about that.
Well, I'm a cultural Christian. My parents went to church every Sunday, and whether I was hungover or not, you're going to church
right.
Sunday morning. I was an altar boy for several years. I was in the Cubs and the Scouts, and I played for the basketball team. So it was all part and parcel of our life. And it was Anglican, Church of England. I did that right up to college, and then I didn't go to church anymore. I was studying, I was preoccupied. My parents didn't make me go.
Yeah, right.
And then in Toronto, in my job, there was a Billy Graham crusade, and I went to the front. I've probably been baptized at least 3 times. I've accepted Christ several thousand times, I think, just in case.
Right.
So, I'm, I guess, 70 years a Christian and 60 years a businessman.
Wow.
And the way that evolved, if you're interested.
Yeah, please.
A few years ago in a Baptist church in Davis I attended, I heard a sermon. And Jesus was tested by a lawyer. What's the greatest commandment? And there were 600 of them in the Jewish religion. And he said, there's one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I thought, wow, that reduces it down nicely. 2 weeks later, I heard another sermon. By the way, this is love. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Love is patient, love is kind. It's not a feeling, it's a behavior for the benefit of others. Mm-hmm. And I thought, boy, oh boy, that really clears it up for me. So then I thought, what if I take 70 years as a believer, 60 years as a businessman, and try to put love is patient? What's that look like as a management style?
Right.
Love is kind, not rude, not blah. So that's what I did, and that's thus the book.
Yeah. So the book, John Johnson, Love as a Management Practice, The Motivating Power of Love at Work. Yeah, I think sometimes, and I think this is true even for executives who are, as you described, kind of cultural Christian, there can be a real sense that, in fact, I think there's even kind of a phrase, well, here's my Sunday, or here's my kind of belief system over here, but this is business.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Separate.
They're separate.
Yep.
This is business. We got to do what we got to do.
Right.
And there's not, and I think that comes from a belief system that says if we believe this worked, then it would be an integrated thing,
Absolutely.
right? And so, and I've just, the more I've gone, and I don't have nearly the experience in life experiences you have, but the more I've gone, I think I've come to the belief that Jesus was the expert on everything.
Yep. For sure.
And so it works.
Yep.
You know, and you hear, I mean, I've heard about great cultures, great CEOs, you know, whoever, and I mean, Jack Welch, I don't know, whoever,
Yeah.
where you hear about a great CEO and a great culture, and then if you really if you get under that statement and get down into what they're actually doing, is oftentimes these principles.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it works.
Right.
Right?
Yep. I would say that formula, love is patient, love is kind. If you took that and went into any ordinary business, you don't have to have a breakthrough, and applied that to your employees, you would be amazingly successful, because it's a complete unique strategy. You cannot duplicate the relationship between you and your people.
Right.
So you can't compete with that.
Right.
And if you started up a business, anybody listening, who wants to start a business, start with those principles, and stand back. It'll be successful.
It's such a simple thing, but
It
it's
is
so
simple,
powerful.
but it's God.
It's
and
God.
And it's true.
Yeah, that's right. Love always hopes,
Always perseveres.
always perseveres, always protects.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Well, under always protects, I had to struggle with that, because, wait a minute, can I protect my people from getting smacked around? The answer is no. So I put in there, love always prepares. It's like you prepare your children,
Right.
prepare your employees. And,
Right.
And I take an example of the boot camp, where they forcefully transform those people to personally survive combat.
Yeah.
And so
Right. You're protecting them by preparing them.
preparing them, exactly. You
Right.
prepare your children. You don't let them walk out in the street. You
Right.
be careful of this, that, and the other thing. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Great
so I had to
point.
translate a little of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, what is I don't know what the little slogan is about, you know, don't prepare the road for your children, but prepare your children for the road.
Yeah.
We can't control all that,
Exactly.
but we can get them ready.
Yep.
That's a really good one.
Yep.
You know, there's something about, you know, that love that brings a sense, and this will sound, there's a sense of safety. Like, this is a safe place.
Yep.
And one thing, somebody told me one time, and I've grasped onto it, that scared people will show you their worst. People who feel safe
Right.
will show you their best.
Yep.
That's a loving
Absolutely.
culture, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you treat your people with love, they feel good on the job, they feel safe on the job, and they're more productive on the job.
Yeah, right.
So you got a win-win.
Right.
You're loving them, and they're loving the job, contributing to the success of the institution you serve.
Yes.
So it's
And everybody's more productive.
It's a great formula.
Right. This is another good one. Love keeps no record of wrongs. In terms of, let's move on. I mean, I find that I say that oftentimes deal with the issue. And by the way, I don't think you're saying, none of this is saying that you don't have hard conversations.
No, exactly.
You have hard conversations in love.
Yep.
And then when it's over,
Yep.
let's move on.
Yep. Exactly.
You know what I mean? I don't have a sheet in the back of my mind going, well, this is the third time that I've had to, I'm a little
Right.
down on this guy. And I love, what's better than forgiveness? When somebody who's in a position of authority tells you, hey, we dealt with it, let's move on.
Well, the psychology today said keeping resentments is a burden you don't need to carry, and it's a self-imposed burden.
Right.
So give it up and pray for them.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Yes. And by the way, John practices. We had lunch and John was telling me about a person in his life, I won't talk about who, where this person is a very difficult person and had kind of come at John about some things. John had been praying about it, processing it, and built a bridge by actually apologizing for his part, saying, hey, I'm sorry for being this. And when the guy still didn't receive it, John said, look, what's more important? Our relationship for the sake of all the people around us or this issue? And even that guy, who pretty tough cookie, was kind of softened.
Yep.
When you told that story, that stuck with me because I was like, man, how we deal with difficult people, even if we feel like we're totally not wrong, they're wrong.
Right.
How we deal with them in love is a powerful thing.
I said I was self-righteous.
I wasn't going to say that on TV, so I'll let you.
And that person, we discussed politics, which is stupid, and religion, which is not stupid, but nevertheless, he had a different opinion. So I apologized for being self-righteous. Can you forgive me, please, for being self-righteous about and arguing about religion and politics? He said, well, I don't know if I can. Oh, well, okay, good on you. So anyway, I got a later email, and I hadn't talked to him for 2 years. Total silence. Got an email saying, that was the most positive conversation we've ever had. And I thought, well, all right.
Funny how that works.
So I got the foot in the door, and now I'm sending him animal things, anything that's not controversial.
Animals are the least controversial thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
So yeah, just keep the door open and keep slipping in stuff, keep the communication going. So.
That's so good. That's so good. In love, in a workplace, in a corporate executive suite, how we deal with handling other people when they're wrong is such a big thing, isn't it?
So easy to be self-righteous.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you blew it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've done that. And it's so gross,
Yeah.
But then your approach with that person, I was just struck by, like, that's real humility to say, hey, look, I just want to reconcile. I'm sorry for my part, and let's be.
Well, I did pray the night before. I didn't get any sleep all night. That's for old people to do that. And I thought, is there anything I can do to move the ball? And the word came down. I'm not saying God told me. Humble yourself to blah, blah. So, oh, that's interesting. I can do that. So the next day I shot off the email.
It's so good.
I don't think I hear from God very much, but anyway.
I think more than you think. Let's talk about your marriage. Jane. How many years?
Loveliest person I have ever known. 61 years. We just celebrated April 8th, 1961.
Wow.
I don't know where that came from. Anyway, she is the most generous. That's the problem. Spends too much money. Oh, why don't we get this gift for that gift? Jane, for goodness sakes, you don't have to send 2 dozen flowers. You can send a dozen. 2 pounds of chocolates? How about 1 pound of chocolate? So Anyway, we have 4 daughters that dote on her, and I do. And she's just the most wonderful person I've ever met. And God kept that marriage together. Believe me, I understand divorce more than I understand keeping a marriage going. Because there are more forces to force you apart.
Right.
And half the marriages in the United States are divorced. So.
Right.
But it's been God all along. I mean, I could have screwed up things so royally. Well, I'm an alcoholic, and I stopped drinking 15 years ago. But that meant my behavior wasn't very good. And I think you've been through that. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, and AA was the best organization I've ever seen. And you knew people were telling the truth because it was so embarrassing. They would talk about themselves. You think you're admitting that? My God, man!
It must
really?
be true. Right.
It must be true.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous, fabulous organization. I went 4 times a week for 8 years, and then I stopped because I was tired of my own story, and I was tired of everybody else's story because I went to the same group, and so but I don't have any. I have no inclination for alcohol, and so anyway.
Wow. And do you ever get a chance to talk about that, like with people? I mean, have you ever gotten a chance to share about your journey to freedom?
AA?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's a. I got to talk to a guy the other day and I was thinking about you because he's just, his life. Yep. A couple guys in the last week, actually, their life just coming apart. And it's so hard to describe. If you can't imagine a day without a drink, it's hard to describe to that person who's still in that boat what it can be. It's like for me at least, it's like trying to describe like what pineapple tastes like. Like how do I get you to like see that there's something on the other side,
I couldn't imagine not drinking. And I thought, but drink's not a problem for me. And then I was part of the recruiting command for the United States Navy, and we were going out on an Enterprise on an aircraft carrier, and they don't serve booze, so I didn't go.
Oh.
Oh yeah, alcohol is not important to me. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That was a once in a lifetime seeing planes take off on the aircraft carrier. I didn't go because they didn't serve alcohol.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
So that kind of brought it home a little bit.
Right.
No.
Wow.
No, and you just, people don't drink over the weekend. They don't drink for a summer. I had one guy that drank for 6 months, but then started to prove that drink wasn't a problem, but he started drinking again. So you've got to be able to convince yourself, I don't need alcohol.
Yeah.
I really don't need alcohol.
Yeah. Right.
And the first concern is, gosh, everybody's going to ask me why I'm not taking a drink. No,
right.
They don't, by the way.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No, people don't care as much as you think they do. Yeah. Once again, John Johnson, we only have a couple minutes left, but the book is Love as a Management Practice, The Motivating Power of Love at Work.
All the proceeds go to Christian Businessman Connection. I'm not.
Oh, great.
I don't make anything on this.
Yeah, this is wonderful. I have gotten to read bits and pieces. So John, when you kind of look back on your life, is that what? And you probably don't do this very often, where you're kind of looking at game film from the last 90 years, but what stands out to you is kind of when you think about God and you think about where He's brought you. You talk about 61 years of marriage, 70 years in business, all these life experiences. For somebody who's a young person who's watching this, who's kind of starting out on their life, what could you tell them about faith or love or anything that comes to mind?
Wow.
It's a big one, I know.
It is big. I guess find a mentor.
Yeah.
I really have never had a mentor, to be honest with you. Read the Bible. I don't know if there is a formula, to be honest with you. Attend a good church and that kind of thing, but read the Bible.
Yeah.
All the truth is in there.
Right.
Whether you can figure it out or not, it's still true.
Right.
I don't have an answer to that. To be
No,
honest
you gave
with
one. You gave one.
Okay.
You gave one.
All right.
John, it's great to be with you. And
Okay,
thanks for
thank you.
sharing this and your life. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next time.